Good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Pearsall, and I'm with the Press Enterprise Newspapers business section and PE.com, as well as the Business Press. And we are here in live, the fifth floor of the Press Enterprise newsroom, and I'm here to talk with a fantastic panel of folks about the auto industry here in the Inland Empire, as well as the impacts that we've seen recession-wide. And to my left, Eric Gosch, who is the co-owner, co-CEO of Gosch Auto. Thanks for being here with us today. Also, Rob Moran, Riverside County Economic Development Agency Manager, and he focuses on business retention in Riverside County. And also Jorge Silva Riso, who is the UC Riverside Associate Professor of Marketing, who also has a fantastic background with J.D. Powers and Associates and working on auto industry analytics. So we'll talk a little bit today about what's been happening here with the auto industry. Obviously, big impact because of the recession. And first off, I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves a little bit more. I just gave you a brief introduction, talk to folks about what you're doing right now facing this economy, and a little bit about yourselves and what you're doing related to the auto industry. So, Eric?
Great. Well, Gosch Auto Group, we're a second generation business in Hemet and Temecula. We've been in the Inland Empire for 45 years. Started by our father, Jack Gosch, who's now retired, and my brother Mark and I run the organization. We've had probably about 12 or 13 different dealerships in the Inland Empire, from the Pass down to the Temecula Elsinore area. Currently we have 5 dealerships in the Inland Empire, and so we're weathering the storm, and that's it's part of the difficult economy we're in, but we're getting through. Good to hear. And Rob?
I'm Rob Moran. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the County of Riverside, and we are the county agency that's responsible for trying to attract and retain businesses in our county through a variety of different services in order to help stimulate job creation and investment.
And Jorge?
Well, I am Associate Professor of Marketing at the University of California, Riverside. Before that, I was Executive Director of Marketing Science at J.D. Power. At J.D. Power, I founded the Marketing Science Group, and I developed and implemented mathematical models that to help automobile manufacturers to plan and optimize their pricing and sales incentive programs, such as rebates, promotional interest rates, and lease support programs. These models are currently being used by most of the car manufacturers established in the U.S.
And in terms of promotions, I'd be curious to find out, what did you think of Eric's promotion recently, where he was suspended above his dealership in a van for how many hours? 48?
4 days.
4 days, that's right, in terms of selling cars. Now, it was successful, correct?
It was. I'm glad in a slightly recovering economy it was successful, yes.
Nice. And what was your limit again? You had to sell a certain amount before you were brought down from your van?
Our goal was 120 cars in the 4 days. Unfortunately, at Sunday at 6:03 p.m. we sold that 120th car, so I was very thankful that happened.
Perfect timing. But you were coming down anyways, so that was a good
Eventually,
thing.
I guess I'd have to come down anyways, but I'm glad we reached our target.
Fantastic. Well, first question for all of you is really, how is this recession affected business? It's affected everyone. And Eric, you brought up the fact that you're weathering a storm right now, and it's been quite the storm for auto dealerships in particular. And just a few stats of new car dealerships: 760 closed in 2008. Sales fell by nearly 14%, and this is nationwide. Locally, that sales tax for cities and counties can account for anywhere from 10% to, in Norco, 40%. And at least 18 inland dealerships have closed since 2008. So there may have been more or less, but about 18. This obviously has affected a lot of folks. And Eric, what has the experience been like, especially since 2008?
Well, yes, we've seen friends of 35, 40 years Inland Empire and around close their stores, and it's been very tough for them. Good friends, and so it's also a time of consolidation too as well, where larger groups with more dealerships and a variety of franchises are able to weather the storm much better than a dealership who has just one franchise in one location. If that manufacturer's in trouble or their site's in trouble, then they don't have much to fall back on. So it's been an experience, a very tough experience. I've been about 30 years in the business, and so obviously this is the most extreme situation we've seen in the last few years.
And in terms of the county responding to this, what has changed as a result of the recession when you're trying to retain auto dealerships, when sometimes it's not even up to incentives, or there won't be any other incentives that might keep them there? It's just a matter of the manufacturer going out of business, the manufacturer filing for bankruptcy, that type of thing, and it just has to happen.
Yeah,
what do you do?
To some degree, there's in many cases there's nothing we can do about it. The auto industry obviously has been hit tremendously nationwide, but also in our county. From 2007 to 2009, there were 53% less new vehicle registrations in Riverside County. So, like every other industry in our county, housing and so forth, the auto industry took a significant beating. And in some cases, there were forces beyond what counties or cities could control, whether it was dealerships being revoked or they just couldn't, generate the sales to stay open. So, to some degree, it happened organically. And there was very little we could do about it.
And in terms of marketing, there's been obviously the Cash for Clunkers promotion that the federal government came in with as an idea to spur sales. But in terms of marketing on a per dealership basis, have you seen any different strategies as a result of the recession?
Well, typically most promotions are driven by the car manufacturers, and yes, several car manufacturers emphasized different tools. Even the luxury brands. And
in a recession as deep as this, what should dealerships perhaps be doing, or should have been doing maybe in 2008, starting when they first got the indication that the economy was on this downward slide?
Well, it is important to be innovative in the communication, and sometimes a program that is not economically better catch the attention of the consumers, and is more successful than other programs from other dealers. So thinking about how to surprise consumers, right, with innovative ideas, and is important. For example, at the manufacturer level, in 2005, General Motors started with the promotion that about selling at the price that employees pay.
Right. And a few dealerships, different brands, did that promotion.
Yeah,
where
but there was
GM employees or.
But the Ford followed, and Chrysler followed. Now, if the reaction of the consumer was very enthusiastic, and saying that that the consumer can buy a car at the same price that the employee is an attractive prospect. Now, doing the mathematics, that in terms of the economics of the deal.
Did it work?
No, yes.
Okay.
Well, for the manufacturers and for the dealers, it worked well, and but the consumer didn't save anything. It's about the perception of the product.
That they're going to be saving something. True. Well, and in terms of sensing trouble too, it seems like 2008 was the the crunch year, 2009, wasn't any better per se. When did you first sense trouble, though?
Well, I have a very distinct timeline. In middle of 2007 is when the housing boom started to turn sideways, turn downward. We saw a change there. We actually did some reductions in 2007, and so we saw that. January of 2008 is when the gas prices started to rise. They rose to the high on July 3rd of 2008 to $4.60 in the Inland Empire. I had millions of dollars of full-size trucks and SUVs that people didn't want. We had people wanting to trade in their full-sized SUVs at one half of wholesale Blue Book. I'm literally just desperate to get rid of them. And after July 3rd of 2008, gas prices came back down, but then in September of 2008 was the financial meltdown. So you take those three things together, and of course the Inland Empire has been hurt worse than others. So we've quite honestly been on a cost control and and a cost containment issue since mid 2007.
Well, it's interesting too that you mentioned that you had full-size trucks, that you had tons of them, and then obviously the gas prices rose, and we're going to get a little bit to this later on, but there was such a movement towards environmentally friendly vehicles at that point in time because they would need less gas, require less gas. Is there still that emphasis on those type of vehicles, or are you seeing an uptick in full-size trucks because gas prices aren't as extreme as they were before?
Yeah. Well, we represent, we have Ford and Chevrolet and Toyota and Hyundai, so we have a spectrum of domestics and imports. I would say there's a difference between environmentally friendly and gas efficient. People were looking for lower gas prices, obviously, with the long commutes out here. And really, people's motivations are largely economically driven. So as gas prices have driven back down, we've had to sell Priuses, used Priuses at a loss. When gas prices dropped back down, we bought them used wholesale at the top of the market. So amazingly enough, big trucks and big SUVs have not come back to the same level as they were before. A lot of that's not driven economically now, though. It's being driven by the government requirement of the increase in the fuel economy averages that's going to happen the next couple of years. So it's really not market driven. So people are going to pay more for their cars. They're going to get better gas mileage, but because it will require more advanced technology to make those cars fuel efficient, they say on average the cars will be a little bit more expensive in the future. They'll also be more green because they'll use less gas. But whether it's green or gas efficiency, I think it's going to be economics that really drive most people's decisions to buy a car.
And we'll talk a little bit about some of those choices in the future soon, and especially the pretty pricey Tesla that's on the market right now. And Rob, in terms of the county, when did you see the full impact of the auto market declining in the Inland Empire? Because obviously that follows after a few quarters of declining sales.
I would concur with Eric. When the housing bust hit, that certainly impacted people's ability to purchase a vehicle. Combine that with higher gas prices and then the financial crisis, about the same timeline. But of course that manifested itself when you started to see dealers closing their doors and less sales volume. So it was in the last couple of years.
Okay. And you alluded to this before, Eric, but friends in the industry who've been around for 35, 40 years, obviously your family has been in business for quite a few years. What is it like seeing others close when you're still weathering the storm, hanging on, having your dealerships?
Well, you think, there for the grace of God go I is the next step. You think, all my friends and people you've known for many years, are good business people, and through no fault of their own, maybe through the manufacturer's poor product or poor financial decisions, the manufacturer has problems, doesn't have a new product, makes bad decisions. They're basically caught in the crosshairs. The dealers, at the whim of the manufacturer in terms of product, and so on new vehicles. So a lot of people have had to focus on used vehicles, but it's tough seeing friends go out of business and people down the street.
True. Well, and in terms of signs of recovery, so we'll end this segment with a little optimism. Are you seeing any signs at this point that things might be getting better?
Absolutely. I think we've bounced off the bottom, I guess you might say. I kind of feel like maybe the last part of last year and the beginning of this year, we were just scraping on the bottom in terms of trying to make things happen. And but I think everyone's kind of used to the level of business activity we have right now, and and I'm seeing slight signs of confidence and a heartbeat in people buying cars. The banks also as well, which are an important part of this whole process, are being just a little bit more understanding of people than they were 6 months ago or a year ago, when they were basically the first words out of their mouth was no, and prove it to me this person can afford a car, and it's a little bit more helpful now, the banks are.
And in terms of the county, are you seeing signs of improvement?
Yes, absolutely. I would say our economy turning around is like a cruise ship turning, not a speedboat where it stops on a dime and can turn around very quickly. It's a long, gradual process, so the recovery is going to take some time, but the numbers aren't really bearing it out per se, but we're seeing much more interest, not just in the auto industry, but other industries as well. It's very affordable right now. And whenever there's a crisis, there's opportunity as well. So you're seeing people step in to fill the gaps, take over locations that were previously vacant, and there's just general improvement in the economy, but it's going to take some time to get there. And it won't be overnight, and we'll still be feeling pain for a while. But yes, absolutely. And we're much more optimistic than we were, say, a year or two ago, when we really didn't know when we were going to hit bottom. But I think we're there and we're turning.
And Jorge, are you seeing it as well in terms of efforts that dealerships are taking right now, and overall the auto industry is?
Yes, actually, there are some good news about related to car manufacturers, and for example, the domestic were carrying high fixed cost structure that was not in relation to the current marketing conditions, but there was in terms of the capacity and even dealer networks and legacy costs. Those are established when the domestics had 80% of the market. And then, in a way, the meltdown in the economy and the speedy bankruptcy procedures were instrumental to make the domestic manufacturers to recover their health, and we are seeing good news from GM and Chrysler that they are making profit, and Ford was adjusting the structure before, so they didn't need to go through bankruptcy. And in terms of another signals, this morning I was listening to the radio, and the statistics of through transportation through railroads.
These shipments of cars?
Yes.
Okay.
And were twice that were before. So,
okay.
And,
yeah, because for a while there, they were sitting at the ports, and there just weren't any shipments happening at all. And curious, Eric, before we go to the break, how do you outdo being suspended in a van above your dealership to sell cars. What's the next?
I don't think you outdo that.
I want to see him swim with sharks.
I swim with
maybe.
sharks. Yeah, I was in the van for about three and a half days above the Menifee campus at Mount San Jacinto College for a used car sale, and I'd say, relevant to our current discussion, that it was we only did that sale because we thought that we could sell cars, and I think that was reflective of a slightly improved economy. We would not have done something like that a year ago, either spent the money or had the sale, because it's hard to push a string uphill. And so we did it, and we were successful, and so happy we'll do it again sometime. We'll see.
Nice. Well, on that note, we'll take a little 2-minute break, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more about auto industry as an economic engine for the Inland Empire.